It's that moment of waiting to see if you're live or not, and I think we are live. It's always it can just take a moment. It seemed a little bit slow this morning, but we're here this morning to talk about fashion and clothing. And I'm not going to pretend for one moment that I'm an expert on fashion and clothing. I talk a lot about sustainability and sustainable living, and there are two things I usually try and steer clear of talking about, and that is fashion and buildings. But they're very, very important. They're all a part of our world. But I don't need to talk a lot about fashion because I've got a lot of questions about fashion, which is why I've got Kate and Jewelz here with me this morning, and I'll introduce them to you in a moment. Before we jump in, I'd like to start by acknowledging the Wurundjeri as the traditional custodians and true sovereigns of this land on which we live on, and which I'm talking to you on today. So I'd like to pay respects to the elders, past, present and emerging, from all nations. And if you are watching in, I'd love to know where you're coming from. If you're coming from Wurundjeri in Melbourne, or where else you are. Maybe you're not in Melbourne, maybe you're somewhere else in Victoria, or even Australia, or worldwide. But I'm going to just change the screen around, and I'm here doing the tech. Sometimes I muck it up, so bear with me if I do. I've got Kate Luckins here. Kate is from the founder of the Clothing Exchange, and of course I don't have my notes in front of me. Sustainable Lifestyle is your current project, I believe. Is that right, Kate? Have I got that right?
Yeah, that's right. I've founded a new adventure to help people green their fashion, food and family life, the whole lot.
Excellent. We'll get into that a bit more as we go. And we've got Jewelz here. Jewelz has got an interesting story, but she's a bit of an independent freelance pixie. Can I use the term pixie? I just did. I hope that's okay. Jewelz has come from the fashion industry and done a complete backflip on the way she views fashion. But I guess we're here to talk about fashion, fashion waste, clothes swaps, and a little bit about the Zero Waste Festival. If you are listening in from Melbourne and you're coming to the festival, I'd love to know. And if you're not, then I'd love you to maybe book a ticket. I'll put some links in later so we can see it there. But clothing swap is something that I'd really like to talk about today, because it's something that I've been around and it's part of my norm. And I was chatting to somebody earlier in the week and I mentioned a clothes swap, and the idea of a clothes swap was like, oh, that kind of sounds cool, but I don't know what it's about and I don't know if I want to play. So I thought I'd bring in two people who have done many more clothes swaps in my time than probably I ever will. And I say that because of what they do, not because of what I will do. And I might hand it to Kate because she's the founder of the Clothing Exchange, and I'd like to know a little bit about the Clothing Exchange, but what even made you come up with the idea?
Oh yes, the harebrained scheme. I was definitely trying to reconcile a love of fashion with my concerns about fashion waste and consumerism, which is where I designed the system back when I did my fashion masters. And certainly we've had almost 20 years of experimenting and developing the format of our events. So there's certainly, if somebody's thinking about trying a clothing exchange, this one at the Zero Waste Festival is a great first step, because Emily, who has been a long-term clothing exchange volunteer, is actually heading that up and taking very good care of people. So I guess the key thing is, if you're going to try a clothing swap, you want to go to one where you think you can really trust people to take care of you and manage a really fair system of exchange. And so what you'll do at a clothes swap is you'll bring 6 items that you value but you no longer wear to swap for those that you will. And some people get a bit nervous and go, oh, will I get something as good as I put in and whatnot? And there is an absolute feast of things. You'll be absolutely astonished by the things that people have in their wardrobes, often with the tag still attached, that they're not even using. So it's a fantastic opportunity to, have a, unique and playful social experience, but also trade things that you're not even getting use out of. For things that you'll actually really value and can fill vital roles within your wardrobe. So yeah, it's a great opportunity. Do you want me to explain a little bit about how the system of exchange works? Does that help?
Definitely. Like, it's funny because sometimes with exchange, I run food swaps, and food swaps are different to clothes swaps, but not too different in the sense that I don't take the excess lemons and barter or directly trade. That's not what happens in clothes swaps either, is it?
No, that would be tremendously awkward, because if you think about it, the risk is high. There's a lot of often you know, it could turn into the Boxing Day sales with everyone elbowing everyone out of the way and, you know, all this sort of ferociously hoarding garments. And we have perfected the art of avoiding all that. And so what you do is you actually check in the garments and the quality screen to make sure that they are of a swappable standard, which I think everyone would agree is, you know, not pilled, not pongy, you know, something that you'd be excited to see hanging on the racks. So there's this first step of sort of quality control, if you will. And then the other thing that happens that makes it all very lovely and fun is we set up everything in racks. So it's like a clothing store, but just everything is essentially free. So you wait for that to happen, and then you're invited in together and encouraged to keep those elbows in. And you try a couple of items at a time, and then you just pop them back on the racks if they don't suit you. Definitely, if someone was squirreling away things in the corner, we'd quickly tend to that situation. So it's like shopping where everything's free, and the beautiful interactions that actually people have, because people get really excited about what they're going to gain from the clothing exchange. They're thinking what they might take home. But actually, when you see someone wearing those pants that you love but just never wear, and they're thrilled to bits to have them on their legs, it's a really nice interaction that plays out when you're not only just getting something, but giving something away and relieving the guilt of wasting. So there's a whole lot of lovely things that happen during the context of a swap.
I can vouch for that. It warms my heart when someone takes something that I love and perhaps I don't fit anymore, or I loved it more 10 years ago and think that perhaps someone a little bit more hip than me should be wearing it.
I think you're underestimating yourself a bit there. In fact, actually, that's one of the fun things is people sometimes, because the stakes are a bit lower, there's no money involved. So you just, you know, you might grab something that you think that's a bit wilder than I'd usually wear, like, you know, a tutu, a furry vest, I don't know, something a little bit more leery. And then often those sort of spontaneous choices become the soulmate garments in the wardrobe that you just feel great going back to again and again. So it encourages a bit of like style experimentation, which is really great.
Fair enough, lovely. And that's a beautiful segue, because I'd like to ask Jewelz, because Jewelz does clothes swaps, but on a much, much smaller scale. So can you tell us about how you've done your clothes swaps, Jewelz?
Yeah, for sure. I was going to ask if I could pop in there because I see we've got a couple of people streaming in from outside of Melbourne, so probably not likely to be able to make the festival on Saturday. But I think it's a good opportunity for them to find out how they can maybe put this into action at home amongst friends. So I have done clothes swaps with girlfriends at home, and it's a really great way to have like a social interaction. Like, I feel like most people these days are kind of stripped for time and find it hard to catch up with friends. And so this is a good opportunity. Invite a few girlfriends over, have like some drinks, get a cheese board happening, you know, get a rack. Even if everyone just brings over 2 or 3 pieces each, it is an opportunity to kind of find something new. And even when people are different sizes, like in amongst my group of girlfriends, we range from like size 8 to size, 24 or something like that. So we're not always going to find clothing that suits, but then there is universal things like shoes and jewelry and accessories that we can swap. And it's about finding that key item that you can take home and that really pops in your wardrobe and makes that like point of difference. So it's not necessarily about, like Kate was saying, about hoarding and going home with a mammoth amount of new pieces. It's about finding something that really works with what you've already got, or is going to be like maybe a key statement piece that you go back to time and time again. So, and yeah, it is definitely about like taking in stuff that you no longer have use or love for, but somebody else might really find a place within their own wardrobe for and become a key piece within their wardrobe. And I think too, the nice thing about doing it amongst friends and family is that you're working within your own demographic. So you're obviously friends and family with those people for a reason. And so you're probably sharing a few similar interests, or maybe you've got a similar style, or maybe, you're all a bit unique and independent. So it's a good opportunity to find stuff within that group. Whereas, maybe like a big clothing exchange, you're finding stuff that's like a little bit more on the universal side, I guess.
I'm just wondering, I'm going to bring us all back in together. Can I do this? Right, I can. Accessories are a really interesting thing, and I've got two questions coming from that. Like, there's accessories, and maybe if there's doing a close swap with a friend, and then there's going to perhaps a more public close swap and bringing a friend. And do you think it's better to go to a close swap alone and go back and kind of show you stuff? I think I'm kind of know the answer as I say it. I just, you do you know what I mean? Shopping with a friend, I'm like, sometimes it's like, I know for me, it's kind of like, it looks good on the rack, but not always great on me. And sometimes I don't think it looks good on the rack, and I've put it on because I've been in a silly mood and gone, oh, hello. Got any thoughts on that?
I would definitely say, like, be thoughtful about who you choose to go. Like, I've got certain people that I will go shopping with. Like, my mum, for instance, is fantastic, because if something looks good on me, she'll be like, oh, that looks amazing, you have to have it. But if it doesn't suit, she will be dead honest and tell me, like, don't get that. No, that's not working for you. Walk away. So yeah, definitely knowing your friends, and whether they bring out like that honesty and can give you the hard truths when you need them, that can be really good. But also, like, yeah, sometimes it's fun having a friend there with you to be able to kind of bounce off, and you've got the energies and stuff. So yeah, that can be really nice as well.
What are your thoughts on that, Kate?
Well, the thing that in the beginning, it used to be groups of friends that came, but actually women started to feel really comfortable coming alone. It's quite a welcoming environment, actually. And you don't get distracted by anyone. You kind of got, your game face on, you're focused. I think, yeah, the diplomatic but discerning friend is always going to be a fun addition. So I would say either way, whatever works better for you. Some people just like to focus on what they're doing, because it is, it's exciting. There's a little bit going on. But it is always wonderful to share that, of course, with a friend.
Yeah, great. I'm not sure how many people are watching, but if anyone's been to a close swap or got some feedback or comments they'd like to share or ask, please pop them in. But I'm going to ask Jewelz, because Jewelz is actually coming to our clothes swap. I'm not sure if Kate is. I hope she is. Kate is actually speaking at the festival later on in the day. Yeah. But if people are at the clothes swap and they don't have that friend with them, or their friend is a good friend but not a stylist, can you let people know how you're going to help them out, Jewelz?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm very open to helping people. Like, if they're not sure what's going to suit them or their body shape, they're more than welcome to come up and have a chat with me, and hopefully I can give them some tips and pointers. I also have a pretty good eye for detail, so I'm usually able to pick things out pretty quickly for people that might suit them, or things that they might not necessarily pick for themselves, which is always really nice as well. And it's a good opportunity for people to find something that's a bit out of their comfort zone. Like, they might find something that they wouldn't normally pick if they were in the high street shops. They might pick something that's a little bit like extroverted or a little bit different to what they'd normally go for. So I think it's a good opportunity to find that real piece of gold.
And Lee's backing that up here. She's actually said that second opinions are necessary as long as they're honest, like your mum. And it's funny, sometimes mums are honest, sometimes friends are honest. But do you ever find, Kate, that sometimes strangers are even more honest?
I don't know if I have any direct. I know that, like, people band together at the swaps and kind of get excited over somebody, doing a bit of a twirl or having a bit of a moment. I'd say people are honest when they're supportive. I asked
that because I've got some really good, like, I've put on things and gone, oh, I'm not sure, and I've had people go, yeah, no, and I've been like, thank you, because it looked great on the rack, and then it's actually opened it up, and they've gone, but can you? Why don't you have this? And I'm like, no, and like, yeah, go on, and I get in the party mood kind of like that. So sure.
Yeah.
I think it could be really handy too. Like, my rule of thumb is, if you feel good, you look good. So yeah, trying stuff on and kind of like working out, like, how does this make me feel? And I'm sure most people are familiar with Marie Kondo's kind of work. Like, does it spark joy? And that's a good rule of thumb to work with. Like, do I feel good? Do I feel fabulous in this piece of outfit? And if the answer is no, or if you've got those little niggly, like, oh, but maybe it makes my bum look too big, or this, that, and the other, like, it's probably not a good match. and it's a good opportunity to put it back on the rack and let somebody else pick it up.
I think that's so spot on. And Jane's actually said here that she gets into the zone. She's got a friend who comes along with her sometimes, but only gets one thing. She goes for quality, not quantity, which I think is a really good advice. And I'd be really happy to take 10 things. And if I get 1 or 2 things that are great, when I say 10 things, these are 10 things that I want to pass on. I don't want them anymore. I'm not emotionally attached. I'm done with them. But I am wondering if somebody does go along and they think, because I can imagine I've got friends who actually buy things without trying them on. Now, my body shape doesn't allow me to do that because I usually get it wrong. But if somebody gets something and they takes it home and it's not quite what they thought it would be, what advice can we give them to maybe make it work for them, or what can they do?
Yeah, so I'm happy to jump in on that one, Kirsty. So as a pattern maker in the fashion industry, my advice often is to buy stuff that's a little bit bigger, and you can take it to a local seamstress or tailor and get things fitted to your shape or to your fit, and that can be a really great way to buy something that's been quite cheap to acquire, but then to get it tailored into a way that you'll wear it time and time again, and that like really can be really flattering for your body shape.
Have you got any thoughts on that, Kate?
On what to do? Well, you can always go out on a limb and take something with the comfort of knowing, we have regular clothing exchanges in Melbourne and Sydney, so you can always just bring it back to the swapping system. It can re-enter the cycle, which is great. So the risk is low. But I guess when I run a sustainable style edit, I always say, does it fit, flatter, and feel good? And can you picture yourself wearing this in, doing things you actually do in your life? Because it's very easy to grab aspirational clothes. And I think when I first really tackled shopping my own wardrobe and taking a really good hard look at it, I realized that a lot of the clothes were quite fancy for some glamorous woman who maybe lives in New York and flips between work and cocktail hour, whereas I am often at home with the kids, running down the street on their scooters, chasing them away. And my real life really required really different kinds of clothes. So actually keeping in mind, to make a good choice, what you really need for your actual lifestyle and what fits, flatters, and feels good. And just, you put it on and it's like, it's a little soulmate. It's going to lift you up and build your spirits and confidence. It's definitely, as you say, Jewelz, not going to make you feel self-conscious. But a bit of a swapping tip, because you can imagine it does become a bit of a communal change room. I think there's usually some private options if you want, but usually with the pace of the events, people just kind of give it a go. But wear the leggings and like a tight singlet top or something, so you can just throw things on and try things. Because as you said before, some people will grab things without trying them and just hope for the best. And ideally, from a clothes swap, you want the great clothes to go with the people who will get the most value out of them. That's the goal.
Yeah, Kirsty, just to add to that, like I've said to a girlfriend before when we've gone to go shopping, like wear stuff that's easy to get on and off. You don't want to wear your 18-hole lace-up Doc Martens. Like you're going to be spending the next 20 minutes just trying to get your boots off before you can get your jeans off to get on whatever you're trying. So you want stuff that's easy just to be able to like flip on and off. Often something like a dress or a skirt is really good, because if you're trying on pants, you can actually just pop them on underneath without having to even take them off.
When you can't be bothered waiting for a change room. Fair enough.
Yeah, definitely. It's like having a personal change room.
Lee's got a cheeky question, actually. She said, what pieces are good to hide a jelly belly? She's asking for a friend, apparently.
Kate, do you want to take the lead on that one?
I can. I'm sure I can relate to that one. I guess I like things that skim rather than cling to the body. Giant snuggly cardies and whatnot. But also, we don't want to underestimate how gorgeous it is to, be soft and curvy and lovely. So we don't want to, don't necessarily want to sort of hide things that could be celebrated as well. Nobody minds a good old-fashioned A-line dress for a lively, skimming of the body and giving a nice sense of play. But I think it's more an instinctive thing. I don't think I would tie that to a specific style of garment. I think that you've just got to, the best thing to do is to try things on, see how you feel. If you are unsure of your own opinion, the idea of bringing the discerning but kind friend is good for that double check factor. But yeah, I think that Lee's question is just like nearly every human in the world. And
especially
yeah,
women after
hopefully
kids,
that,
sometimes before, but often after.
yeah, I just wish they made more jeans that actually celebrated and catered for human-sized shaping rather than cutting you in half down the middle when you try and sit down. Like picking clothes, the clothes should fit you. You shouldn't torture yourself to fit in the clothes. And what I've realized these days when I shop is I really like things that feel as comfortable as pajamas, but are a step up. I've got this great green dress that I'm basically living in at the moment that people keep complimenting because it looks lovely. But look, I could wear the thing to bed. It's so comfy. I think COVID life taught us that of all the things we actually value comfort, and I don't think you should trade on that. I think you should definitely feel comfortable, glamorous, and wonderful.
Yeah,
Can I just
absolutely.
add to that too, like, knowing what your best feature is, like, okay, you might have a bit of a bigger belly, but you might have fantastic legs and you're happy to get them out and have them on show a little bit. And so working with what you really love about yourself is a good way to do it as well. And so, yeah, maybe if you're wanting to hide the belly, but you're happy to get the legs out or maybe the shoulders or something like a baby doll style dress is good, or even baby doll style tops, where you can really you can hide that but play it up and show something else off instead. So
I think Jane's made a comment here. It's like showing off somewhere else. The neck, put something pretty around your neck instead of focusing on your belly. As you said, focus on your legs or focus on other areas. And Annie's just backing up. I've got a pair of Levi's and button-down shirt. That's comfort to me as well too. I actually want to move on and ask Kate, because Kate started the clothing exchange, I would say with, just local ideas and small ambitions, but it's really grown, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a wild swap story, actually, because I started it in 2004 just to solve the problem of wanting to really amplify people's interest in secondhand clothes, but make it really convenient and fun and bring people together so they could see that everyone was doing something sustainable together. So I wanted to sort of solve that problem of fashion waste. So I sort of did this test run and did this kind of event design where you find a way to fairly exchange the clothes and you have buttons as your currency and all the things to give people comfort in the experience. But then I guess, it just grew and grew, and we've ended up, Kirsten, who is the national swap coordinator and an awesome clothing exchange host, she did the biggest clothes swap of all time, partnering with Oxfam, and it was like 2,000 people swapping clothes. And she also, together, we prepared a national swap tour where we had events in every single state, and councils started coming to us and saying, hey, can you bring this to our locale? Corporates, we went up, the top of the skyscrapers and supported 1 million women when they were just getting started to try and drive some interest in the early days of them starting. I guess that the concept is so adaptable that I'm happiest that it's often used as a charity fundraiser model, but it's also a template that anyone can do. And you're right, Jules, it's easily replicated in the home, and it's so obvious. It's really easy to translate into any context. So I guess, it's been a really interesting experience having, a lot of interest in the swapping story over the years, because it's thrifty, it's sustainable, it's enjoyable, it ticks so many boxes. And, we've talked about this story locally, but, I was even at the UN headquarters in Nairobi talking about it, and we had a sustainable fashion celebration in the headquarters, complete with like booty shaking and drums and all the good things. So like, I just think that you can't underestimate with any sustainable low waste initiative that one little idea can capture the hearts and minds of people and amplify to become a bona fide movement. And if you're somebody who either wants to participate by coming along to this awesome swap next weekend, or you're somebody who's got a niggle of an idea of something low waste or zero waste you could do, you don't want to underestimate the impact that you can eventually have over time, especially the way that information spreads nowadays.
I have just put into the chat the link to the ticketing. So if you're in Melbourne or going to be in Melbourne and would love to come to the event, I think it's $5. We've got 2 swaps happening. It's we've got a children's swap happening, and that's $5 to come, and it's $10 for adults. So you can grab a ticket there, but it's free to come to everything else at the festival as well. And we've got some great talks on. We've got a talk about fashion. We're actually going to have a display. I don't know if I've mentioned it to Jewelz or Kate. And we're actually going to have 2 displays there. One is going to be a pile of 31 kilos of textile waste, and we're going to match that with 31 kilos of lovely, not yet waste, and encourage people to think about that before they buy things that might end up to be tossed out. We're going to be having a talk about fashion and talk about food, and we've got the Waste Warriors and the Low Waste Living from Monash Uni, and we've also got a screening of Going Circular, which is an amazing new documentary out, and you'll be able to hear Kate talk about a few more things about circularity after that, and Jewelz will also be talking about doing a bit of a fashion styling demo at the event. So I'd love you to come along if you haven't planned it, and we'd love to see you there. But back to the fashion. I'm not good at doing the promo MC, but anyway, I jump in every now and then with that.
I thought you did a great job.
Yeah, we don't want people to miss out. It's such a good festival. Yeah. It's great to do it in person again.
Oh, it absolutely is. I mean, we did this back in 2019 where we had the clothes swap happening. We did think about doing it in 2020. In fact, that was kind of where it stemmed from, but we got scared and we said no clothes swap, but then we were pushed online, so there was never going to be a clothes swap anyway.
Yeah.
But I guess the thing is, in terms of like the fashion and clothing, like we could probably keep talking all morning, but is there any other key things that you'd like to mention about your sustainable lifestyle, Kate? I'm just going to try and find the links so we can pop them in if people want to keep following you.
Oh, thank you. I guess what I think, why I think things like this festival and some of the stuff I offer is such a great starting point is I think there's just so many people that are really busy and probably a little bit still pandemic burnt out, and they've got the best of intention. They've got a bit of eco anxiety. They're concerned about climate change, but confused about the practices that they need to start adopting in their everyday life. So if you feel, like you'd like to do something, you'd like to start approaching that, it's just great to start in your area of interest. And this is such a good entry point, this festival, or I offer like fridge and kitchen edits or wardrobe edits where you get the benefits of like easier meal times, a style upgrade. You get all these other benefits, not to mention cost saved or nutrition boosted. Like you get all these other great benefits, but you're also saving the planet. But you're also choosing one area to focus on to just get the ball rolling. So it's, it's such a welcoming opportunity. And we're not talking about, all the really scary stuff that can overwhelm us about climate change. We're actually really focused on action and giving you a lifestyle upgrade with that, not sort of wallowing in worry, but actually starting to think, what do I want in my life? What do I value? How can I improve this aspect and help the planet too? So I think the festival and some of the stuff that I offer at Sustainable Lifestyle really helps, the mainstream audience, the people who are concerned but confused and want to do more, but want to feel really confident in what they're doing and be taken and be a bit supported in it.
And I think too, like it's about celebrating the little steps we can all individually take rather than, and like you were saying, Kate, rather than focusing on the big picture and feeling like it's bigger than what we can personally do. It's about looking at like, hey, like I can't do everything at once, but I can make this one small step, which is actually going to be helping. And for me personally, coming from a fast fashion industry, spent 15 years working on my career and becoming a really good pattern maker and getting a good name for myself. But the weight of fast fashion weighed so heavily on me. By the end, I was like, I just don't want to be like a cog or a wheel in that machine anymore. How can I use that expertise and that understanding of what the industry is doing to our planet to be able to liberate other people's lives and make that better.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really interesting. I think we need to really shift the mindset. It's like, well, I've bought all these clothes, but I've donated them. That's good. Now I'm going shopping again. And by shopping, I mean down the main street, not down to the op shop. And how do you think we can shift that mindset? Because donating and then getting more and donating, it's not supporting it, is it?
It's not, but I think a lot of it's education. Like, people don't realise what their choices are doing and where their choices are going after they've used it those 2 or 3 times. The problem with a lot of fast fashion is it's not built to last. You know, so if you bought a garment maybe in the 60s or 70s, it probably still exists and is in good condition, maybe just needs a little bit of repair. But if you bought something, say, 4 years ago, chances are if you've used it a number of times, it's not usable anymore, which means that it's going to landfill. And this is really an opportunity for people to kind of look into their wardrobes and look at what they're using and what they actually need, and then be able to find those things in a more sustainable way. So I think it really is just about educating people so that they can make better choices.
Absolutely. It's all about education. And I think we'll wrap this up soon, but do you want to finish about anything about education, Kate? I think you did a little bit with your edits and the way that you shift people's mindsets.
Yeah, we definitely, like, we start off kind of with a wardrobe edit and the style upgrade and all this sort of stuff. But then by the end, we're sort of reflecting on our habits and how you can go 1 minute, you know, just pick up your phone mindlessly, and the next minute you've segued into shopping without almost realizing it. And then you're kind of loading up your shopping cart with extra items to get free postage. And like, it's really hard to make change when every system is designed to make you buy more. So you sort of got to foster, you know, you work out what your values are. And I kind of pop up on my Instagram and stuff like hierarchies and stuff like that. So you're, you know, looking to buy secondhand. If not that, well, then what's the sort of medium green thing you can do? Perhaps if you're not swapping, hiring or borrowing and doing those really awesome strategies, the next best step is really supporting. There's some incredible sustainable businesses out there, like the Fashion Advocate, who curates all the best, most sustainable, most considered zero waste approaches to fashion. You know, it's all there, and you can support those people who are trying to do the best thing in that perspective. And then you can layer that up and then, you know, take that ethical garment and then swap it again. But I really think there's so many enjoyable strategies. Like, I had a friend come over to borrow a dress, and she recounted to me the other week how before this big event last year, she'd gone down to the shops, panic purchased several $100s worth of clothes and felt awful at the event. Instead, she came over to me a few weeks early. She tried on all my clothes, had a blast, left basically skipping out the door, and had a fantastic time at the event, saving her money, feeling great, feeling thrifty, and ultimately like what she was doing was right for the planet. So I think when you, as an individual, work out what your priorities are and then just get excited about the different ways that you can, you know, create that sustainable lifestyle based on your values.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm just going to finish this off on Annie's got a tip for us. And I think it's a really great tip, because sometimes clothes can't be accepted at the clothing exchange and at the clothing swaps. So if people do have clothes like that, I think it's a really good way to finish it, Annie. Annie likes to use old clothes perhaps for a quilt. But what would you suggest people do with old clothes? Do you have any top tips for that?
Yeah, I do. So I collect my old socks and undies and give them a wash, and then I cut them up and put them in old bean bags, which my dogs love. So yeah, I mean, I'm not inviting guests to come over and sit on old socks and undies, but like for the dogs, it's perfect.
But you wash them up.
And I wash them, they're cut. They're just like little scraps of fabric, so it's perfect. It saves me having to buy polystyrene beanbag refills and stuff like that. So there is quite a few different things that you can do to repurpose old clothes. And for me personally, that was one of the great things about COVID was like, oh, wow, I've got all these scraps of fabric I can finally put into use by making masks. And yeah, there's a number of different things that they can be used. And I think things like YouTube and Instagram, if you're looking for ideas of how to get creative with scraps of fabric, you can find something on there.
Excellent. Have you got any top tips, Kate?
Well, again, there's a spectrum of different things you can do. I experimented with consigning things that I don't wear. There's a variety of reselling options. If this is often when people edit their wardrobe, they have a giant no pile of things that they no longer feel good in. So there's a whole host of different strategies you can do. But I would just want to, probably the point that's best to make is that textile recycling is something that's becoming more readily available. So the stuff that you can't use as rags and whatnot, there is actually a newly burgeoning textile recycling industry in Australia, which wasn't for a long time. It was a long time coming. So there's always something you can do.
There absolutely is. And if you are coming to the festival, we've got that covered. I'm trying to think, it's Ben, I can't think of his last name, but he does the recycling there. That'll be covered in our panel discussion, which will be quite exciting as well too. I'm just bringing it up so it looks like I know what I'm talking about. I just wish I could remember Ben's business. That's right. Ben is Textile Recycling Australia. So he'll be there and he's actually providing the textile waste for us for the display. Those who've just jumped in and may not have heard the whole thing, we're just doing a display on fashion waste and he's providing some textile waste as a prop. So we can actually show people what that looks like. But I think it's been lovely to chat to you both. If there's anything else you'd just like to add, otherwise I think we'll just move on from now.
It's clearly a topic that I think both of us could talk about until the cows come home, and they've probably both got different tips and ways of looking at things. So if you do come to the festival, like, come and say hi, come and introduce yourself. You know, if you've got questions, let us know, because like we really want to get that knowledge out there and help people to be more sustainable within their wardrobes.
Absolutely. I love an email. I love having pen pals. So please get my email. Let's have a chat. Let's sort out what you're worried about. And definitely very keen to, learn to live better with less. It's an ongoing project for me. And I really love bringing people along with me for that ride. So hopefully let's do that.
Lovely. Wonderful. Thanks, Kate. Thanks, Jewelz. Look forward to seeing you on the 17th of September. And thanks to everyone who's been listening in. Bye for now.
Hi. Thank you.